Carson.
It's another day in paradise, dude. How are you?
Yeah, at least we got sunshine today. That was nice.
Yeah, there's one thing.
Yep.
I know. I
So
suppose.
there's that.
Where are you again? You're in, is it Kentucky? Tennessee?
Bentonville, Arkansas.
Arkansas, per se. Okay, I was going to say, I knew it was just kind of right there.
Somewhere in the South, right?
In the South, but is Arkansas really the South?
It's just below the Mason-Dixon line.
So I guess
considered the South.
technically
Yeah.
you lost the war, but
Well, luckily I'm not from here. It's just where I live. My wife's parents retired to Bella Vista, Arkansas, which sits right on top of Bentonville in 2002, I believe. Low cost of living, low taxes, and a nice, sleepy, quiet little area. Used to be, but it is the world headquarters of Walmart, J.B. Hunt Trucking, Tyson Foods. So it has just literally blown up since we moved here back in 2015. And we moved here to help out with her parents because mom's always had health issues, but they just started progressing and get worse. And we could work from anywhere in the country. So that's how we ended up here. It's not bad. We like it. It's kind of becoming like a Austin or Boulder or Asheville, though. And that I don't like.
That's because sorry about that.
so by
Yeah.
Asheville, do you mean it's about to be wiped off the face of the map with a hurricane and then ignored by FEMA?
No, and I have family in Asheville. I used to live in Asheville years and years ago. No,
It's not a
that
declare
why. No, it's more like a lot of Subarus, man buns, and rainbows. And
Like
not
Eugene.
liking it.
Like Eugene, Oregon.
Got one of those? Yeah.
Dude.
But it is what it is. We got 6 acres. We're just barely outside of town, close to everything. I just tried not to leave the house that much because people in general just annoy me.
You could have just stopped that because people.
People. Agreed. So how you guys doing today?
Good, man. Good.
Closing out a couple other windows here.
You're
No
okay.
noise.
Brandon, where are you from originally before you moved down to Dentonville?
I was born in Kansas City, and I've lived in 15 states total, coast to coast and Hawaii. So I get around. I'm done moving.
I heard that.
Stateside home. Yeah, it's my last stateside home. We'll probably pick up something in Aruba pretty soon. If not Aruba, somewhere in the Caribbean, just depending on what we feel is the best. But Aruba's always been our favorite.
Dude, I've always, if I'm more of a mountains, I don't know if you noticed, but I look better with more clothes on, not less clothes off or more clothes off. But if we did the Caribbean life, French West Indies, I love them. I love them. I mean, some of the coolest spots we ever visited, like St. Barth's and a few other spots. Holy cow, what an incredible spot. Is there a place in the Caribbean you'd prefer? Can't be Turks and Caicos.
No, Aruba. Yeah, it's below the hurricane belt.
Is it?
Yeah, it's only 19-mile island. The weather's perfect all the time. It has the trade winds that come through there. So there's always a nice breeze that goes through there. White sand, you've got shopping, you've got good restaurants, but you also have just a very relaxed way of life. Everybody speaks good English on the island, and they call it One Happy Island. And I mean, everybody kind of lives by that motto. There's really no drama or politics or, any bullshit. If you haven't been, you should go and check it out.
Aruba is one spot we have not stopped at.
Yeah, it hasn't been either. So it's not like, I know a lot of the islands down there, there's like the stuff that's coastal is like, hey, tourists, you're cool here. Don't cross that line over there.
Oh, no, it's not like that.
Border. No, that's
No,
awesome.
No, you go anywhere on it's Dutch owned, like Dutch or Norwegian or something like that. So, first time we went there, we were at a resort and there were kids there, but you'd have never known it. Like the kids were well behaved. No one's running around screaming, jumping in the pool, crying. I mean, it's like my wife and I are just looking around like, what the hell? These kids are quiet and well behaved. All of them. Yeah, we don't travel with them.
Larson, my kid's not out there.
But
It was he had the bright idea to do a kids table last year when we all went to West Yellowstone. It's a bad idea. It was like Lord of the Flies.
No, we had a
great movie.
We had a great time.
So, how's business? How's life?
Business is good. I want to introduce everybody to you. So this is my friend Brandon Rooks. Brandon is probably one of the most motivated individuals I've ever met in my life. He's one of the few people that's like, I love working from home so that I can just wake up and work instead of dealing with all the other BS. Everyone else wants to work from home so they can masturbate or something. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. But
You work from home?
what's that?
Do you work from home?
I did. When we first moved to Idaho, I did for like 3 months and I about lost my mind. I was like, I got to get out of here. I was dying. I think I told you and Jeff that back in the day. We were on a call, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And he was like, shut up and get to work. So
I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not working, really. And I do everything I do for our investors. If I can continue to be one of the strongest performing real estate investment, funds or offerings in the country, always deliver. I mean, we've never missed a distribution. We've never paid less than we've offered. We've had multiple profit sharing quarters, and for me, that's the why. And that's the win. When we can deliver, when we know so many other people in our network or in our circle or in real estate investment in general or any kind of investment, it's just so up and down and wishy-washy. And, we've never had to freeze redemptions. We're going to pay out probably between 14, 15% to our investors this year. We've been beating the stock market every year since inception, and we're a 100% referral business. So everybody's like family. We don't do any marketing or any cold calling or, any pay-per-click ads or anything like that. And I love what I do, So that's really what makes it worthwhile getting up. And there are times, man, I wake up like last night. I woke up at 2:39 a.m. Brain was already going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, that happens every time I get up. It's somewhere between 3 and 5 a.m. I'm never at my desk later than 5. But as soon as I wake up, I've 5.5 hours of sleep. I'm refreshed. My brain is going 100 miles an hour. So I just have to get up and go down to the office. So, which is good. It's about 100 steps, boom, in my office, working from my pajamas. I did shower for you and get dressed.
I appreciate you showering. Dude, Peter literally just this morning was telling me about this massive win his client had, and Rockstar's been a part of that. Peter, you should just kind of run with that, but we need to get you out in front of more of our folks because
I had an account review last night with one of my clients, and it was the first client that I had referred over to you. And we were going through their entire portfolio, just kind of, they've got some life stuff coming up, and we were going through reviewing stuff. And he's like, okay, so remind me what we have here, what we have here. And as we're going through line by line, it's like every single thing we talked about. It's like, well, when you had this money over here in this account before we moved it, this is what the performance looked like. And this is what you've been like for the last 12, 18, 24 months. And they were just absolutely astonished at how well everything that we had done and set up for them was doing exactly what they wanted it to do, exactly what you promised it would do. And that was the thing, was he even said, he was like, oh, it did exactly what you said it was going to do. It was like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. That's how
that guy's name was Mike. That was Michael, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. 535 investors. And I still pretty much know every single one of them.
So I've got a question for you, Brent, and I've asked you this in the past, and I've overcome my obstacles with it, or you've overcome my obstacles. But I know for a lot of, because our audience, most of the people tuning into us, they're insurance agents and financial advisors that lean more towards insurance products for the safety and security, right? And I remember when you were first talking to me about Rockstar and what y'all were doing, I told you, hey, what about, here's my issues with real estate in general. Right. And it's the illiquidity points. Yeah, that land's not going to go away, but being illiquid and unable to use your money when you needed your money is damn near as bad as losing your money. You have the same issues oftentimes. And I love real estate, but it was certainly, I don't know if you remember that conversation.
I do. Yeah.
I think for the folks that are going to tune in, listen, and what's different, unique, what is Rockstar first and foremost? Let's actually address that. And then what's unique about it versus like any other real estate syndicate out there, because there's a lot of 2-bit real estate syndicates out there, and that's not what you had to put together.
A lot of it's track record. There's a lot of people that jump into the real estate game, and then maybe they do a couple fix and flips, and they just think they're fix and flip gods and queens all of a sudden. So they go out and look what I did. Let's raise a bunch of capital, and then they get in, they bite off more than they can chew, right? So that's what happens. Or people get into these multifamily projects. They're going to do a value add. And don't get me wrong, not all are bad. I'm certainly not saying that. But here's some of the horror stories you hear, right? Get into a value add and all the projections look great, but nobody can actually ever hit any of the numbers on their pro forma. They start having problems with can't get bad tenants out, start finding more problems with the properties. Cost to get the renovations done is way more than what they thought it was going to be. They try to start raising the rents and they can't because the market won't allow it. So they can barely raise their rents, a little bit. And we just have all these big wide swings in real estate. When the interest rates doubled, that caused a lot of problems with a lot of real estate funds, and I've been in physical doors. At one point in time, we owned almost 500 doors. I just got tired of tenants, toilets, and trash. It's messy. It's lumpy. You got to deal with property management. You got to deal with the ups and downs. You got to deal with the tenant that maybe destroys your property. And
People.
you've lost all your cash. People, and we even stayed in stuff that was higher dollar. Like we tried to stay in that middle America market of properties where rents were always more than $1,000. I've seen so many problems in the lower end and Section 8. And when people are getting a government check and they're not using their own money to pay for their rent, they just don't take care of your property. But there's pros and cons. People make money in that. They make money in apartments. They make it in everything. But, I just did something today because we have clients that, we're not on track to make as much as we did in 2021. I said, well, we've had a rough little ride, right? I mean, we paid out 16.5% in 2021. And then it went down to 14.5% in 2022. And that was kind of the COVID after effect, where all of a sudden the supply chain disruptions, the labor shortages, material shortages, people not getting, and then interest rates started doubling, in like 2022. And it was just all this after effect. And they're like complaining because they earned less. And I'm like, we're on track to hit 14 to 15% again this year. So it's coming back up. But I went and looked up what the average performance of REITs have been. This is where you invest in the stock market, you invest in these REITs and these big funds. And the average performance has been between 9 and 10% for this year. We're on track to pay out 14 to 15. So we're beating the biggest guys in the industry. Now, what we do—
Not by a little either, by 50%.
Yeah. I mean, those are some good numbers, right? So what we are is in simplest terms, we're like a bank. So investors invest with us. If they invest $100,000 or $10,000, we have a $10,000 minimum, but they invest that amount. We put that principal to work, lending it to our strategic partners in the Southeast. And all we're lending on is land or lots. We're in and out at dirt. Now, what's brilliant about that is there's notes, right? There's loans and mortgages and maybe some mezz loans or some promissory notes. But when I do a promissory note with an operation for operation cost on the ground, like entitlement and soft cost, I'm doing it with like a confession of judgment. Now, keep in mind too, a lot of times when people get in trouble, it's based on loan to value, right? What is the property worth? And if you had to foreclose or call a note or do something like that, what could you get out of it? Here's what's really brilliant. I'm the primary capital raising partner for BRD Land and Investment and Buller River and Estera Developments. I'm probably 93 to 95% of all the capital that has come into their operation. Currently, BRD Land, in 5 years, we've taken them from their first project, which was a 99 unit lot project that they turned and flipped to Ryan Homes, that they more than doubled their money on, to in the last 5 years, we have built that up to a 60,000 lot pipeline in 5 states worth over $1.5 billion. I've raised a total of $93 million against their operations, and they have $1.5 billion of dirt. Their profit margins on average are 50%. So that means that's $750 million in profit against $93 million raised. Our LTV is like 12% against their profit margin. So it's just a different ballgame. And the product that they take to the market, they get it fully entitled. It's called a paper lot, meaning all the permits are in place, all the easements are in place. They engineer it, meaning they lay out what the parcels are supposed to be, the lot sizes and where they go, where everything taps in, but they never put a piece of equipment on the dirt. And it's all designed around going to the biggest national builders in the country. We sell to 15 of the top 25 national builders in the country. And they're building homes in the $250,000 to $500,000 price point on average. That's exactly what America needs. We need the formation or creation of rooftops in the what we call workforce housing. That price point, depending on the market, is considered workforce housing. And that's what I love about what we do. We're in and out of dirt. The dirt's never going to go anywhere. We don't put it under contract. We don't get moving on it. We don't do it unless we know it can be turned in 9 to 18 to 24, maybe 36 months if it's a huge project. And we already know that we have buyers for it because we hired all the top land asset managers away from the national builders 5 years ago and had them come work under our operation. So you invest with a bank, right? A bank lends the money out, and that's how they make money. That's what we do. And they have notes and mortgages and, collateral that they can go against. And they do it at what? 60, 65% on dirt and 75, 80, 90, 95% on houses. And we're at about 12% against their entire operation. So it's good. Everybody asks, it's investing, right? Can you lose your money? Sure. All investments have risks, but the difference here is what has to happen to put it at risk. Builders, the biggest builders in the country, have to pretty much stop building homes to put us at risk. That's likely not going to happen. And we're in 5 states, both Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Some of the hottest states in the country that are, building homes and in the right markets. We're not in these inky-dink little markets in the middle of nowhere, hour and a half, 2 hours from population, right? We're the biggest builders in the country. It's kind of like McDonald's. McDonald's knows where to put a McDonald's up at. Well, these big builders know where to put their developments up at. And that's everything that we have, they want. So is it lumpy? Sure. Some of these huge land transactions that might be, 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000 lots. The biggest holdup is always the municipalities. These government or state workers that have no sense of urgency, and they can let a permit sit on their desk for 3 months before signing it. And it's literally ready to be signed, and they just don't get to it, and that's our biggest bane of our existence is like, if everybody worked the way we did, we'd be turning shit like left and right,
Boom, boom.
But that's not how it works. But it's dirt. We're a bank. You invest with us. If you have to get your money back, here's what's beautiful. If you invest 10,000, 100,000, whatever amount, any amount, and you need that money, you can do a redemption request. However much of your shares you want to sell, we just sell to the next investor that's coming in. I don't take any fees. You don't take any deductions. You get exactly the same amount of money you invested. So if you say, hey, I need $10,000 back, fine. Next investor coming in, have them buy those shares. You get $10,000. I don't take a fee. You don't take any deductions. You keep everything you've made all along the way. So what's really happened is, if you don't here, if you can see it, I'm a blue jeans kind of guy, right? Blue jeans, blue collar investor. And I have a GED, barely squeaked through high school, not because I wasn't intelligent, just because I moved around so much and school was boring. But GED, went in the Navy out of high school. I read 2 books, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill in the Navy, and Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And that's it. Then I put all those principles to work. But what I've built, I built to be simple for investors. You invest, you start getting quarterly distributions immediately. You'll see profit sharing quarters as we have them, and we've built up a stability where things are closing all the time now. And you get regular communications, and our family business. My 2 sister-in-laws work for me. My son works for me. We answer every call, email, or text same day. And you guys know this, and you can attest to it. It's not easy, but we do it. But yeah, in simplest terms, we're a bank. You're just putting your money with another bank, and we're just investing in dirt, and dirt has got a lot of profit in it.
Yeah.
So why dirt? I know the answer to this, but just for everybody that's not privy to it, what need are you filling with the dirt? Like, why does a home builder need someone like you as opposed to just going to the bank and getting a loan to develop their own raw land?
Banks don't. Builders don't want the ground on their books. That's why they like companies like us. We get the ground ready so that as soon as they close on that sale or that contract, they can put equipment on the ground and start construction immediately, right? So we're the bank. We lend to BRD Land and Investment. They're the ones that put ground under contract or acquire ground, and they start doing all the entitlement process, which is the hardest part of the entire process. And then they sell to the builders. The builders, back before the last real estate collapse, got caught with their pants down. They got caught with a ton of ground on their balance sheets, which then hurts their share prices, which then hurts their production. And so a lot of them made a shift after that to start unloading the ground, not having it on their balance sheets, and they'll pay stupid money for shovel-ready dirt because it's stronger for their company, right? And it's kind of how we fell into it. We had that project that we were going to build. That was those 99 townhomes. And no sooner than we bought the ground, Ryan Holmes had actually come knocking on the door. Their rep, Tim Samuels, was like, how'd you guys get that ground? We were just about to buy it. We bought it as a legacy lot from a bank. It was a foreclosure. And Lindsay, our partner from New Zealand, which has come over here to do real estate. And he's like, well, I guess you're too old, too fat, and too slow, right? And so he's like, we're going to build it.
The trifecta.
Yeah. He kept coming back, about every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. And he's like, hey, you guys haven't pulled permits. I see you haven't moved on the dirt. We really want to buy it from you. And we're like, we're going to build it. We've got other projects. So it's going to take some time before we get started on that one. And about 6 months in, Lindsay finally was like, fine. He just kept coming back. He's like, fine, bring me an offer so I can turn it down. You can take it back to the company and then we can be done with this conversation. And anyway, he brought the offer. And when he was looking at it, he's like, what the hell? In his mind, he's thinking, these numbers can't be right. But in his face, he's like, you've been chasing me for 6 months and this is the best you can do? And Tim Samuel said, I'll be back. He came back in about 24 hours with a stronger offer and said, look, this is the absolute top dollar we could pay. And we ended up on a $3 million purchase, selling it for $6.3 million. Never had to build a damn thing.
Beautiful.
And Lindsay's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Well, what it boiled down to is we're a small builder. We were building at, $95 a foot. Ryan Holmes was building for $65 a foot. Because of their size and scale and operation, they've got their cost extremely low. They can pay more for that shovel-ready dirt, and that's what they want. And and you can research this. You can find articles on this. I've got articles that I can send you guys. Here's the thing. I wake up every morning. I go and check, market conditions, and I look at Builder Online, and, I get the right data that talks about what's going on in the housing markets. And land is the game. The builders can't build anything without the dirt first. They don't want the land on their balance sheets until they absolutely have to have it. And that's where what we've created has become such a niche opportunity. There's not a lot of guys doing what we do to any size or scale at all. I just got back from a family office conference and met with Joe Williams, which is one of the founders of Keller Williams, largest real estate brokerage in the world. And a couple years ago, he started talking about he was getting into the land game, and he called to have a meeting with us while we were there. And that was a very interesting meeting. And let's just say that that's good. BRD land is getting to the point where institutional capital is starting to take a look. We'll start getting 8-figure checks and we'll start scaling and duplicating and opening across more markets. And that's where we sit. I always liken this to, you remember these guys like Zuckerberg and Jobs and, Musk that had these little companies. Yeah, Rooks, I know, Rockstar. They had these little companies. They were working out of their garage, their dorm room, and everybody's like, that'll never work, and look what they are now. You just got to have the vision, the tenacity, the drive, the desire, the dedication, determination, discipline, and you could achieve anything you want to achieve. And we saw a hole in the market and we saw an opportunity and we've just gone gangbusters after it. And fortunate that we did. I mean, I've been in the real estate investment arena for 25 years. I wished I'd learned about dirt in the beginning. I'd probably own Aruba, but knowing what I know now, but that's okay. I still got a lot of years left in me. Who knows? I'll have an island somewhere someday.
What made you, because you guys aren't just like, you're the bank, but it's not, you're not a guy with a 5-gallon bucket that you can put somebody's money in with a promise of a return. You're a registered fund. You're compliant in all measures. You're doing all the things. What made you decide? This is one of the unique things that I think you all bring to the table versus a lot of other funds outside of real estate even. Because when you get into the private placement category, everybody wants $50,000 minimum and a letter of accreditation. Yeah. What was it that made you say, hey, you know what? Let's build ourselves in a way where we can take on non-accredited investors. In other words, people like Ma and Pa that aren't worth $1 million for folks listening, right? Ma and Pa that had 10 grand in an old 401k and they don't want to put it in the stock market, but they don't think like an annuity or a CD is the right place to invest that. What made you decide to go to the hassle? Because I remember talking to you as you were doing some of your restructuring on your funds, and it was a hassle. It cost you a ton of money. Why open up to, investors at the $10,000 level, and why deal with non-accredited investors? What was kind of some of the purpose and appointment behind that?
The need, like I said, I come from nothing. I grew up extremely poor. I remember my mom making our clothes. If we wanted stuff like jam or jelly or pies, we'd have to go hunt wild berries and bring them home because we couldn't afford to buy them at the grocery store. And I remember my mom telling us that we're only allowed to use 4 squares of toilet paper to wipe our ass. Let me tell you what, that doesn't wipe your ass very good. You got to wash your hands a lot, right? But we grew up poor. And there's a lot of people in America that are not accredited. They want to have success. They want to have the opportunity to invest in things that can get them a return, even a little bit of passive income. from $10,000. It may not be much, but $1,000 a year from our 10% preferred. If we're hitting another 5% in profit sharing, that's another, $500. A $10,000 investment that returns $1,500 a year to them in quarterly distributions. That could be the difference of a Christmas for somebody. That could be the difference of I can take care of, a home repair that happens and it doesn't have to come out of my paycheck. It might take care of a car payment for some people, if they got lower car payments. But you're exactly right. There's so many people out there that never had an opportunity to invest in something like this. And where it came from was one, that, I want to help as many people as I can reach their financial goals. If you go and look at my website, you can see a lot of testimonials. Grab a cocktail, a beer, or a cigar, because it's going to take a while to read them. But I've helped clients retire early. I've helped clients that never thought they would be able to retire. And one of my favorites is Bernadette Moriarty, and she's written testimonials for us. And she's just like, she talks to her friends and like, how do you stop working so early? How do you retire? She goes, you got to call Rockstar. And she tells them all about me. And then that sounds like a scam. That's too good to be true. Nobody can pay out that much. She's like, okay, I just gave you the information and you just shit all over it, but whatever. She's like, I stopped talking to people because they just don't have any common sense. But there's this group of people that want to be able to invest. And those are the people that are probably buying a lot of scratch off tickets or lottery tickets. They probably jumped in on crypto at the wrong time, thinking that they're going to have a windfall come in on that. And, there's just so many things that are out there that are volatile. And I wanted to do something that was just safe and consistent and, had a real solid asset behind it.
You
and
didn't
non-accredited
put 93 million into crowdfunding NFTs in 2021?
did not.
What? Weird.
I threw 20 grand at Bitcoin at one point in time, and then and I was up, and then it was down, and then it was kind of up a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? This is no better than Vegas or the stock market. You have no control. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. I love all these crypto experts to tell you what's going to happen. This is where it's going to, and nobody knows, but that's neither here nor there. What I like is things that I can control. And that's what we do. We can control what we're lending on, and we're controlling and lending on an asset that we know is going to end up being bought by the biggest builders in the country, which is going to they can't build anything without the dirt first. And that non-accredited thing came from, I've worked with non-accredited investors and helped them start small. And then I started getting a lot of accredited investors. My accredited investors were like, my aunt, my uncle, my brother, my son, my kids, they want to invest, but they're not accredited. And I'm like, that's where this came from. It's like, in order to be able to work with a non-accredited, sophisticated investor, if you have to have a Reg D 506B, but you also have to have a prior relationship with them. And our prior relationship came from, I help people just do, as a consultant to BRD Land and as Estero and Buller River, I would help them do private investment notes. So they were the private lender, and it was like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, things like that. You even had some as low as $5,000, right? Buying some lots in Southwest Florida for $5,000 early 2020 and 2021, which are now worth like $35,000, $40,000. And by the way, so I helped them do that. So that formed a relationship so I could bring them in under a 506B. But a Reg A, I don't have to have a prior relationship, which means for my accredited investors that were referring non-accredited, sophisticated investors, I no longer had to go create a note on a private lending note on a piece of ground, which by the way, that stuff started getting more expensive. And that was kind of cutting people out of the opportunity. And then I could bring them in to, one of the Rockstar funds. So a Reg A allows me to open my market or my opportunity to everybody. I can market freely. I can advertise. I can work with accredited and non-accredited. And a 506B, which by the way, I had 3 of them, which is why I did the merger. You can only have 35 non-accredited investors in that, funder offering. I have no cap or no limit. And now I can raise up to $75 million a year to grow with the operations that are currently in 5 states that have the ability to be in, let's call it probably 40 states, because there's some states you don't want to be in because of the red tape, bureaucracy, and the bullshit. We'll never be in California. Yeah, we'll never be there. We'll never be in New York. And, there's reasons for that. So, California, it could take you 10 years to get a goddamn permit. Excuse my language on that.
So what, because most of our audience, like we've got some folks that have some money and they need to invest and divest outside of insurance and traditional financial services. So they ought to be hitting you up anyways. Like we've got some folks that literally run and manage insurance companies. However, the majority of our folks are insurance agents and financial advisors. And I'm not trying to be shitty, But if they were doing this for free, they wouldn't be doing it at all. So that's kind of one of the other things I'd love for everybody to kind of hear about, because you've done all this for the investor. What have you done for the advisor, the person that's like, hey, whether my client has 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million or $10 million, as an advisor, I'm incentivized to bring it here, and I'm not decentivized, because annuities pay X percent. Well, I could go dump it in annuities and get this check. There's no extra incentive to do that through what you've set up. You've put together a program where these folks can get taken care of for taking care of their clients. And we'd love to say they would do it out of the goodness of their hearts, but let's be honest, Brandon, no, none of us are here because we're working for free. We're getting a paycheck. So it matters.
Sure.
So,
and so am I. Yeah. And so am I, just so people know how I get compensated. I have 7 figures invested in my operations as well. I'm getting those regular quarterly distributions as well. But the way I earn for what I do is we lend to our operations. And when we earn that interest that comes in, we pay our investors first. And then there's the 10% annualized preferred. And then I carve out about 3% to cover all operation expenses and management fees. That's to run the entire thing. All the legal, accounting, banking, the travel, the sponsorships, all that stuff. And then, which actually is pretty low in the world of funds. It's usually, with most people, somewhere between 5 and 8%. I'm 3% or less.
yeah,
And then the rest we split with our investors, right? 60-40. The investors get 60% of what's left over, and then the general partner gets 40%. And from that 40%, I also compensate advisors, people that bring things to us. We can have an agreement, and we could do one of 2 things. It depends on how they want to be paid. If they'd like to be paid just like a flat fee, then we can definitely do that. If they would like to have some compensation in perpetuity, for as long as their investors stay in with us, that is a rolling total, and it can climb and go up or decrease if some of them kind of pop out, but they can get paid off of the general partner shares profit sharing interest. And, I've got one advisor in that, let's just say she makes a consistent 5 figures every quarter, and she's got over 6 million in. And I won't say the numbers because, you got to wait and see what we do. I've had a lot of people tell me they could bring capital and then they just don't do it. I've got 2 that have only ever done it. So, but we can compensate that way, or it could be a blend of both, right? You can get a little bit on the front and you can get some perpetuity. So I can set that up. We have to do what's called an advisory agreement. I do it with my attorney. I've got to keep this 100% compliant and legal, but you can legally be compensated by sending your investors to us, and just choose how you'd like to be how you'd like to be compensated. I guess that matters on how well your business is doing. If your earned income is great and it's taking care of all your bills, I would say do the deal where you're getting some money in perpetuity, because that's your passive income. You can create passive income off the backs of others. And plain and simple, I think you and I had started talking with how we would structure that for that to be for all of your network and group. So as soon as we come to the final arrangement, we'll have it consistent so it's across the board for everybody.
Carson,
I think it's cool.
You talked a little bit about private placement, but just in case somebody jumped in that hasn't heard of that before, what is a private placement?
You want to handle that, Brandon?
Yeah. Private placement is basically like an offering. So it's a company bringing an investment opportunity to investors, and it's called a PPM, private placement memorandum. Now, if for a Reg A, SEC with all their stupid rules, sorry, SEC, if you're listening, and they're always listening, we have to call it an offering. We don't get to call what we do a fund. It's not a private placement memorandum. It's an offering, and an offering circular, which, by the way, I had to go through a qualification process. People can just open 506Bs and Cs, Reg Ds all day long, fill out the information, file it, boom. I had to get qualified, background check, transfer agents involved. I'm almost like a public offering without actually having taken my offering public. And that's huge. I got to send up my financials every 6 months, have a third-party CPA audit every year. Again, confidence and security for our clients and our investors. That's what I really tried to create. But yeah, that's basically what a private placement memorandum is. That's what a Reg D would be. People can do SPEs, special purpose entities, or SPVs, special purpose vehicles. You can set up LLC agreements. I would just tell you, if you're looking at any of those things, do your due diligence, do your homework. Has that person been in business for a while? Is it something they've done multiple successful transactions before? Everybody and their brother is looking for the next thing that they could do. And I've watched a lot of them not perform. And I've had a lot of people I know chose to go that route because it looked more attractive, And then they come back to me like, man, I wish I would have just went with you guys.
Yeah, that's I told you this years ago, but that's always been my reservation is I've looked at REITs, real estate investment trusts, and syndicates. The vast majority of them fail. The vast majority fail, like bar none. They just do. And there are some that do well. Absolutely. There's some that do really, really well, but the vast majority fail. And the folks who are participating in them are ma and pa. The ones that don't fail, they've got upper echelon, John Doe worth $50 million who parked a couple million over there and he's okay. But they also had the money, the wherewithal to hire the right people. And it's kind of a whole 9 yards. But that's always was kind of one of my concerns is just, man, by and large, these funds fail. These syndicates fail. It's a realtor who was doing a good job and decided to take on client money to buy real estate,
Yeah. Yeah. Real estate is it's good and bad, right? I made some good money in real estate but I sold when the time was right. And it's something that you got to watch, just like anything. You've got to watch the performance. And a lot of people just kind of get locked in and kind of like the stock market, like you're in it for the long haul, right? It's in it for the long haul. And how many people do you know or have talked to that when they needed that money the most was when their 401ks tanked,
Always.
Yeah.
You don't need your emergency funds unless it's a motherfucking emergency. So
yeah. And the thing about the stock market and 401ks and things like that, if you invest, and let's say you've got $500,000 value, and then all of a sudden you watch it decline to 250,000, you now have to make back 500,000 just to get back to par, even though you're only down 250. And that's a problem. This is a great story. I had a guy that came inside with us and we did like these free real estate seminars on how to, invest in real estate and things like that. And he says, he goes, I got a story for you. He said, me and my two buddies got out of college. I started a cardboard box company. They started a couple other companies, and his dad had always told him, put money into your 401k, put money into the stock market. And that's what he did for 25 years. Both his buddies, successful businesses as well, and they invested in real estate, land or single families or, multifamily or commercial or stuff like that. But they watched it. He goes, I watched them. He goes, they sold stuff at the right time. They turned around and switched to a different type of model or structure, but they've done really well. They got private jets. They got homes all over, the United States. He goes, and I did an analysis on where my stock market and my performance was. He says, I'm exactly where I've invested. He goes, my value is how much I've put in because of the 25-year ride. So that's great that he put that money in and he had it, but he wasn't ahead. He wasn't at that, what they say you're going to have that 8 to 12%, annual performance. Didn't happen.
Morningstar report. We can say this because we're not tied to any carriers. We can talk shit if we want to. So,
and we're good at it.
He didn't beat his Morningstar report or even meet it. My God.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's crazy. But who do you know and who do you trust? And that's really what it all boils down to. And sometimes, and I get this all the time, people are like, that all sounds great, but it just sounds too good to be true. I'm like, it does. I said, but you got somebody that I could have structured this the way most lending funds or private money funds operate. I could have structured it that same way. And that means I would be promoting earnings that are more in line with what people see on average, which may be a 6% preferred and maybe like an 80-20 profit share split, but a profit share split after the fact that the fund operator's taken 8% off the top, right? And then they'll say, well, you'll make somewhere between 8 to 12%. Here I am stroking it where, hey, you're getting 10% preferred and we might make as much as 15% this year. Next year, we'll probably be at 16 to 17%, to be honest with you. And they just look like, we immediately go, that sounds too good to be true. It's high risk, high reward, it's high risk. And, I get it all.
Funny you mentioned that because the same people that have an issue with that. And I'm a huge fan of these private placements. I'm a massive fan of them because I like fixed interest and I like collateral on my investment. Even if I'm not collateralized on the contract, I'm collateralized through the balance sheet of the company I invested in with the assets they are buying, using my money to buy, right? So I'm a huge fan. The same people that have this big issue with sounds too good to be true. These are the same people that'll turn around and send you a link to a Dave Ramsey article where, hey, in the stock market, you can earn 12% per year and you can retire on 8% per year on your money because all you need is 4% per year for inflation. And don't worry about ups, downs, lefts, or rights because sequence returns is not really a thing.
Yeah, order returns needs that.
But it's the same people. They think you're too good to be true, but what Dave Ramsey is telling them is not true.
It's fear and it's friends or family that talk them out of it, almost all the time. But you know what? That's America. That's the world. 90% of the population out there will retire broke, dependent on government welfare, friends and family, Social Security. Will never take action. Will never make more than just enough to get by. And that's the stats. That's how it is. People are fearful. People believe everybody else. If you do your homework and do your due diligence, you can uncover a lot of information, which I openly author. It's funny. I've got a client that has been with me for several years. He just keeps putting money in. He's like, I fucking love you, Rockstar. He goes, what do you got? What are we doing? And he sent me one of his sisters, and his sisters does really well, lives in California. She's in the music or the film and music industry, and she's invested and she's happy. And then he tells his other sister about it. I just talked to her and she's like, well, it sounds great, but she's going through all the normal due diligence and questions. I says, yeah, I appreciate that. That's all good. And then and she got down the end. She goes, but do you have anything in writing that I won't lose my money? And I'm like, well, what's sad about when you do these kinds of docs, and if you've ever read a PPM or an offering doc, it's about 86 pages of just my baffling shit that SEC attorneys have put in there. They pretty much try to scare the pants off of you so that you won't invest with them, because guess where they want your money to be? In the stock market. Because there's more controls in there. That fuels the government fire, right? So, but anyway, she's basically just down the end. She goes, but I know, and he goes, he's told me that, and I've heard that you've wrote checks to your investors on some of the deals that you raised capital for, or some of the deals you had helped them invest in, and it went wrong, which I have, and that's documentable, and I can prove it. I never let an investor lose their principal. But she goes, but I need to see it in writing. And I'm like, I can't put it in writing. I said, but I'll go through my docs and I'll try to find where in the offering docs it talks about, how you're collateralized and security and all that stuff. I says, but we have to say, it's a requirement. We have to say every investment has risk. You have the opportunity to lose all your money. I just have to say it. It's a law. And then she also she goes, I found this negative thing on you on bigger pockets. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that one. And she's like, well, what's your take on that? I said, did you see my response to that person? She goes, I did. I said, did you see them respond back? No, I did not. I says, do you remember my response? It's like, I don't know you. You've never invested with me. How are you telling me that one of my clients lost money on a deal in Southwest Florida? And then I told her the story of what it was. I helped my investors invest in 54 fix and flips in Southwest Florida back in 2017. And this is a guy I'd done business with for 8 years. And we went out and ended up helping my investors put the down payment down. He carried the note, the purchase note with the bank, and he carried all the construction costs with the note. And all my investors were putting up the capital to get the property secured. And no sooner than it took about 6-7 months to get all 54 of these properties, Hurricane Irma hit, which just started a trickle down effect, right? Insurance adjusters had to come out. There wasn't a lot of damage in Southwest Florida, but there was enough that insurance adjusters had to come out. That takes time. They lost power for a while. That takes time. Contractors had to go to harder hit areas of Florida to get things back up and running. That took time. And several of the projects made our clients money, but a lot of them, he's like, we just have to dump and, we're going to salvage these. But we rewrote all the notes. It was about $3.5 million total. We wrote all the notes to a 2-year note. Everybody got a 4% bump on what they invested. And then he paid them back a 9% interest only monthly payment every month until he paid off those notes. Most of them he had paid off in 2 years. We recaptured, and still made our investors money. Someone claimed that their friend lost money, and I'm like, absolutely nobody lost their money. I worked my ass off to make sure that they didn't lose their money. But I can't put it in writing.
Yeah.
I do have a track record. I do have a reputation, and my reputation means more to me than the money I make. Plain and simple. I do well. $90 million in assets under management, but the house I bought is $500,000 on 6 acres, 5,000 square foot in Bentonville, Arkansas. I know you're a little jealous.
I do.
I could afford a $350,000 car, but I have 7 cars that I paid less than $250,000 for total. That's me, right?
Brandon, if it makes you feel any better, in a lot of states for annuities these days, we have to literally, before we go meet with the client, we have to send them this letter. And the state writes the letter. So you send them the state letter. And if that letter could be read, if people actually read it the way that it was written, what it would say is, hello, I'm a scam artist. I'm going to come and talk to you about some shit where I'm going to take your money and fucking run. And even though there's state and federal guarantees on these types of products, you're probably still going to lose your money, even though it's absolutely guaranteed up to X amount of dollars and up to blah, 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 blah. I'm coming to your house to screw you. And a lot of people have been screwed. Please sign here acknowledging that you've read this. And we have to get that back before we can even go meet with them to talk about a fixed interest product or a fixed index product with back-end guarantees that the state and federal governments oftentimes even back. Dude, it's insane what these regulatory and compliance committees put together. But you're right. So on it in the stock market, they want it.
Yeah, you mentioned putting things in writing and very few people reading through all those documents. So Brandon, I referred a gal that is in Carson and I's group, Diane, over to you for one of her, a couple of her clients she's working with. And she came back and said, hey, I have some concerns. I read through this document and I saw this, and this. And I'm like, oh, it's like, well, you're probably one of the first 5 people to make it all the way through Jumanji. So good job on that. It's like, but like, okay, this is, and we just broke it down line by line. It's like, this is what this means. This is what this means. Like, I don't have an answer for these 2 or 3 things. It's like, you should call Brandon. Call him and ask and say, hey, I came across these 3 things. I had some questions and concerns. Would you mind explaining it to me? And I love my friend Diane to the moon. She is an overthinker, and she'll tell you that too. And so she got in her head about what's that?
She invested. She dipped her toe in the water and she put 10,000 in with us.
Yeah. And so, but that was the thing. It was like, hey, listen, go call and ask Brandon. And I think that's one of the things for me that's different about Rockstar and different about you is it is the know, like, and trust, but it's the accessibility too. It's like, hey, look, if you have questions, call me. I'm right here, and she did that. And then I followed back up with her and she's like, yeah, you're right. I was overthinking it. I talked to him. He answered this, and this, and we're good. And down the road we go. I was like, great.
Yeah. It's just communication. Like you said, you guys have docs and regulations and compliance and all this stuff. And it's just the minute the government gets involved in anything, they just cock shit up, and it is what it is. Sometimes you just have to see the forest for the trees, and it's going to be the bane of our existence. It gets worse every year. Attorneys come up with something new to add to everything every year because some attorney figured out a way to weasel and worm the words to get around it and sue somebody. We're one of the most litigious countries in the world, and it's just ridiculous. Everybody's just out to sue everybody.
With property and casualty insurance, like home and auto insurance, there's this document that some of the carriers use. It's called a select reject form. And it's a part of the Department of Redundancy Department. And so with that select reject form, you basically need, because some attorney somewhere sued an insurance company and won, because some client went like, well, wait a second, I could buy more insurance? You never told me I could buy more insurance. I thought I could only get this much. So not only do you need to initial, yes, I want this much, but I don't want this much or 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 this much. So yeah, those things are out there, man. It's crazy. It's crazy how over the top, just stupid, blatant, obvious you need to make everything.
I know. It's not going to get any better.
I 2 things. I've got a statement real quick, just a note, Peter, more for us, but then question to kind of wrap this up so we can let you get back your day, Brandon. But no, we like to keep track of things people said and make shirts for our little mastermind. We've got thousands of agents in this mastermind, and cock shit up might need to go on a shirt. I'm just saying. I haven't heard that before, and I think it might need to go on a shirt.
Yep.
Anyway.
I've been around long enough to see it, Served 6 years in the Navy, 3 tours in the Persian Gulf. Love my country. Absolutely sick of my government, but it is what it is. Let's just say that we kind of need to start over. I think, that we talk about someone got elected that wants to drain the swamp. It's exactly what he's talking about. There is so much bullshit in our government. We really just need to get rid of about 585 and start from scratch. We need an overhaul in this country, or we need to have the states that perform well, that are cash positive, that have residents that are doing well. Let's have all 50 states run like that. Let's stop having all these different state to state rules. It's just ridiculous. Or let's take the country and divide it into 4 corners, right? That way, somebody that likes the cold and the crap and they're a Democrat or vote blue, they can live in that corner.
Listen, I like the cold and crap, but I'm not hey, Brandon.
Or maybe we just carve out the middle, right? Let's just cut off the coast. But let's take Florida because Governor DeSantis does a hell of a job in Florida. We have Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas. Amazing. She is, man, she's no bullshit. And she's doing a fantastic job. Our state's we're cash positive, got a surplus. They're talking about reducing taxes across the board, across the state. She's getting rid of all these PC laws that were trying to be put into action in the school system and things like that. She's like, no, we don't refer by they or them. You're either he or she, and it's just everything. Absolutely great state to live in, by the way.
You just built this value and you just tore it down. All these partisan investors now. No.
Well, you know what? 50% might be out, but 50% are in right now. That's the deal with polarizing comments. Is it?
The thing is I think there was obviously a shift in this last election. There's a lot of people that have just been diehard Dems for a long time, started to see through the bullshit, and they flipped, and the vote showed what happened in America, right? And I've got a lot of people I know that says, I'm not going to lie. I was always voting Democrat because that's what my parents did. But
No matter
it
who.
started to see through it. You gotta have the two sides. I mean, that's just America. But and actually our country fiscally does a little better when the Democrats are in office. I recently learned that. But the country is happier and more prosperous when Republicans are in office. And it's kind of a blend.
Wouldn't it be
weird?
weird? Wouldn't it be this amazing thing if we just took all the bullshit of Democrats and all the bullshit of Republicans and said, fuck it. And we just took what worked, the parts that make it really, really work for one side and the parts that really make it work for the other side and just said, let's just do those and like maybe forget about the rest.
Yeah.
Like, let's just do those. And who cares what you call yourself? You can call yourself a friggin' hooker for all I care. Like, yeah, let's just do you. Yeah.
You got friends that they're diehard Ford guys or diehard Chevy guys.
Listen,
And
it's okay to be a diehard Chevy guy. I just want you
it
to
is because like I just want the best. I just want the best of the best. So the Nova it's got a big block Chevy, but it's got a 9-inch rear end because it was the best, strongest rear end I could put in my race car. I don't care whose name was on it.
I agree. I agree. It's there should be a way to blend the best of both worlds, and why we haven't figured that out yet is just baffling to me. That's why I said it's like we need an overhaul. We just need an overhaul. We just have this way of thinking, and these people stuck in these two parties.
Dude, there's all these people freaking out about what's about to happen in Canada, what's happened in New Zealand, what just happened in Germany with their government collapses. But they don't understand in a parliamentary government, which is not what I'm saying we should have, but in a parliamentary government, a collapse is not like we would see it here in the United States where government shuts down. Everything's just a collapse is where the people literally say, hey, we're recalling everybody because this whole thing is bullshit and we're going to reinstall new people like all at once. We don't have a mechanism for that in the United States.
It's called a revolution or a civil war.
Yeah. We don't have a non-violent mechanism for that in the United States. So the mechanism we have is a violent one. And I'm not saying but I'm just saying, to your point, if only we could.
Right.
If only we could.
Yeah. I've had people say,
Brandon,
run for president. I'm like, you kidding me? There's no way I would want to be a politician and run this country.
No, I'm smarter than that. All right. So people want to get a hold of you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is go look at our website first, rockstarcapitalfund.com. There are links on there for contact us. Info at Rockstar Capital Fund. You can email me directly at brandon@rockstarcapitalfund.com. And then also my son, Dylan, Dylan, at Rockstar Capital Fund. He's our investor relations director. But yeah, go to our website and just start perusing through there, read the testimonials. We got a couple little brief videos on there that talk a little bit about what we do and, reach out. I used to just give out myself all the time, but I have to stop because I get blown up all day, every day. And I just, because I'm going to respond to everybody, it just means that I work longer and harder hours than I've ever worked before. We try to get people to understand that, look, we're really large now. We're no longer 70 investors in 2017 and about less than $10 million in assets under management. We're now I think we're over 550 and 93 million in assets under management. I run a big operation with a small team. So you will eventually get my cell phone, but
Got to earn them.
yeah, you will. One, you got to be an investor. at this point.
Yeah.
But we'll still reach out, and you'll still end up getting it because I don't have an office phone. So if I do have to call you, you're going to have my cell. But let's start with that. Start with the website, and then go to the info at Rockstar Capital Fund to reach out, or Brandon. And yeah, I mean, you're going to get a response same day, plain and simple. Now, granted, if you email us at 11:30 at night and we don't respond, same day means before 11:30 the next day. It'll probably be in the morning, but
24 hours.
24-hour period.
I'm also going to send you a burner phone. Just
A burner phone?
yeah, brought me the
The person I referenced like 9 months before he gave me his cell phone number.
dude. I just got to the point where it's like my wife can have it, and that's about it. And you know, I've let some people have it, but yeah, I get to this point where it's like, oh shit, we're still chatting through my CRM phone number. Here's my real
Peter, I had Carson's phone number within a month. So
Listen, don't rub it in. That's not cool. That's not cool.
Oh shit.
I made quite an impression on him at that dinner. But
Yeah, that was a good time. Good old three
that
floors.
was, yeah,
Is that Frisco? It's in Frisco.
that was Frisco. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good dinner, man.
Of course, we also have a link on the free sources page too, right?
Yeah, revagencysyndicate.com/free sources. And you can find Brandon's company on there, Rockstar. Go on there. You can click the links. I think, Brandon, your email's on there. Everything's there. So for the folks in our group, revagencysyndicate.com/free sources, FREE sources. And it's right there. Brandon, anything else you want to leave folks with before we close this out?
No, I mean, we still got a couple weeks left in the year. It's a good time to throw an investment in, get it invested. That's you're a K1 limited partner with us. So that has some tax advantages if it's personal funds, trust, or LLC. And we can explain all that later, but that's an advantage. And it's considered an evergreen lending offering. So this is passive income. As long as you keep the money invested with us, we keep the principal working and earning, and you get regular quarterly distributions. We can raise, we're just about the end of the year, which means we can raise up to $75 million in new capital next year. That will allow us to probably open, continue with regular operations and probably open another 10 markets and probably another 2 states, maybe 3 states. So investing with us is just helping us turn this from Amazon when it was just books to what Amazon is now, and when Facebook was just for the college to what it is now. That's literally the opportunity. Is we've taken something very niche market and a need, and we've capitalized on it. And we've been labeled an industry disruptor, and we now have institutional capital looking at, investing in our operations. And, if we weren't doing something pretty phenomenal, I can tell you that last year, the #1 performing division president of Meritage Homes, which is the #5 builder in the country, walked away from his very cushy job to become our new acting CEO. And that was just a little over a year ago. And he has doubled our pipeline since coming on. He just hired Cisco Garcia, which has over 25 years with Pulte and American Homes for Rent. He's known as the land entitlement land developer guy on the East Coast. And they're building a C-suite of executives that it won't be long before everybody knows who BRD Land and Investment and Rockstar Capital Group are. And I don't give up. And I set some pretty lofty goals. So come join up with us and send your clients to us. They'll be well taken care of, they'll be well communicated with. And like Peter was saying early on, checking with Michael and all of his performance, we do what we say we're going to do. And shit, he's been with us 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, man, time flies. So we'd love to have you. Welcome, everybody. So, yeah.
Appreciate you being here, Brandon. We'll be in touch soon. Peter, anything else?
I think that's it. Thanks again, Brandon. Good seeing you.
Close it up.
Excellent.
Thanks, Brandon.
Appreciate you soon.
Man. We'll see you.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.